Welcome to Start Local, where we talk with business owners, leaders of nonprofits, and other members of our community focused on doing business in and around Chester County, Pennsylvania. Each episode will provide insight into the local business scene and tell you about opportunities to connect with and support businesses and nonprofits in your local area.
The Southern Chester County Chamber of Commerce promotes trade, commerce, industry, and sustainable economic development while supporting a diverse and growing marketplace. The Chamber is proud to partner with the Start Local podcast to raise the profile of businesses and nonprofits throughout Chester County. Learn more about the Chamber at sccc.com. That's sccc.com.
Welcome to Start Local. I'm Liam Dempsey. I'm here with Eric Goodmanson, my fantastic co-host. Eric, hey, how are you today?
I'm doing very well, and I'm excited to talk with our guest today because it's one of the bigger companies in Kennett Square that I enjoy working with.
Yeah, I am too. Today we are excited to welcome Jim O'Farrell to the show. Jim is the Director of High Voltage Operations with the Tri-M Group. They're headquartered down in Kennett Square, as Eric shared, and they specialize in the design, installation, and service of high voltage, electrical construction, building automation systems, data and telecommunication networks, security, and energy analytics. And if that list is a little overwhelming to you, as it is to me, we've got Jim here to walk us all through it. Jim, welcome to the show.
Hey, guys. Great. Thanks for having me today.
Jim, thank you so much for coming on. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Jim, as I just read in the opening there, the Tri-M Group does a lot with electrical construction and related industries. Rather than rereading that list again, I wonder if you can help give our listeners a context for really what you and your colleagues at Tri-M Group do every day. What services are you providing?
Well, to kind of break it down into a nutshell, guys, if you think about a turnkey solution package is what we offer. We look at the analytics, technology advancements, the latest and greatest things in the industry, and we offer that for everything from a design build engineering, from security controls, electrical and testing, and high voltage, of course. This comes from into the building all the way down to the low voltage, which is the light switch that you turn on at the end of the day, right? So when it gets dark, you turn that light switch on. We offer it from all the way from outside the building, off the power lines, into the building itself. We got smart zone lighting for heating and cooling as well. This basically this is a particular understanding of where, if you're working in one side of the building, ultimately with the technology allows us to shut off that other side of the building, whether that be the heating and cooling or the lighting systems, and ultimately helps our customers save electricity in the long run.
Cool. Thank you.
It's been fascinating to watch the journey of Tri-M over the years because the Tri-M Group was founded in 1964 by three brothers, Tom, Dick, and Harry Musser. After a short period, Tom bought his brother out and the company moved ahead under Tom's sole leadership. So tell us about Tri-M today. How big is the company and where does it operate?
Well, so our corporate office is in Kennett Square, Pennsylvania. We have offices in Lock Haven, Pennsylvania, Quakertown, Pennsylvania, and Middletown, Delaware. And to kick back to the start here with Tom, Dick, and Harry, Mom had a great sense of humor. Mom and Dad both did, obviously. To come up with those names for the guys, it's something to be, it's interesting, and it's a great talking point whenever we discuss what the company came from and where it's built and where it is today. But 61 years is a lot to talk about, right? So 61 years of legacy is important. And it was built on relationships with the customers and the employees. This method still holds true today for us. We still have the customers that we had from the start. Obviously, change management over the years with those customers, but it's a family first is our way. We have 31 fundamentals that we live by here at Tri-M. And our number one fundamental is safety. And that's not just for us as a company, that's our employees and the customers that we serve.
31 flavors. That's a lot of 31 flavors. I'm thinking like Baskin Robbins right there. Is it a set of words, or is it statements, or what comprises these 31 foundational ideas for you?
So our 31 fundamentals, if you took them and broke them down into individual concepts, that is actually a way of living in the customer's eyes and also in the company's eyes, right? So how do we best represent the company as employees and employee owners? And how best do we represent the customer at the whole time, keeping safety at the forefront?
Jim, in a previous few conversations, you were kind enough to walk me through some of the ins and outs of the high voltage industry. And you told me about how Tri-M's high voltage department does these installs and maintenance of upgrades of like the power line systems that we see along the roadway and much, much more, the transformer stations and kind of everything that the general public might think about as part of the power grid short of the power station you folks work on. But you also do things that kind of, I was surprised to hear, but make perfect sense once you told me about it. Vegetation management, where you're trimming the trees along the power lines. Tell me about the different services then that the high voltage department provides to really help us understand what is the team that you work on? What do you do all week? What do you do all day?
Okay. Yeah. So basically, the high voltage division started in 1975. That was created by Dick Musser. So Dick Musser went out and created our high voltage division. It was basically specifically for industrial customers. Those are the customers that buy the electric off the utility. And then we supply the distribution portion of it, the poles, the wires, and all that stuff. And then we maintain it for the customer. That's how we got our start. Then we grew into the utility itself, working directly for them. So now industrial, then utility. Fast forward to 2025. We now operate for a lot of cooperatives in the state of Pennsylvania. We've branched out into southern states down in Tennessee. We're doing work in Tennessee. We do work in the Carolinas. We do work out in Ohio, storm response, those kinds of things. But ultimately, we grew into what the industry needed, right? So if you look at industry needs, data is huge. We look at data centers, integrations of those things, fiber to the home, right? Customers want reliable service to their house from a fiber perspective. We were out there going and installing poles for the customer, and then the fiber company was coming in and installing the fiber wires, right? We said, well, why are we doing that? Why don't we just do it all, right? So let's come in, let's do the make-ready portion of it. That's to set a higher pole in there so we can pull the fiber in. Why don't we do that while we're there? So that's what we did. We started a whole fiber division. And then we turned around and said, well, you know what? We go on storm. We're operating on storm. What do we need when we go on storm? There's trees down. There's power lines down. There's all that kind of stuff. So then came the idea of a veg management team. So a line clearance team that goes out there and trims the lines for the customers. But in storm situations, we go out there and assist our own employees. So we come as the whole package, right? So when I said a turnkey operation, that's exactly what we were looking for within our department.
Jim, your job title is one of the cooler sounding ones we've ever heard on the show, Director of High Voltage. And Liam and I are both, into a lot of rock music and all that. And your job title definitely makes us think of the AC/DC album, High Voltage. But enough of that. Tell us about your role specifically with the Tri-M group. What does your typical day look like?
So, very interesting, right? So it's never the same. You would think regimented once you get to that level, but the idea is involved in a lot of different things for the division itself. But specifically at a 30,000 foot, right? I'm looking at growth of the company, growth of our division, where we can go next, and then ultimately guiding my operations and project teams to meet the demands of the customers. That's kind of what, in a nutshell, I do. My day-to-day operations could be in the office. I could be in Tennessee. I could be in Georgia. I could be in the Carolinas. I'd like to be in Florida, but that could be one of my days. But ultimately some traveling, building new relationships with customers, finding new contracts out there, those kinds of things. That's that's my kind of my day-to-day operations out there at the whole time. Helping my team, whether it be putting out fires or support that they need.
Jim, earlier in our conversation, you talked about the growing power needs of the nation, in particular how data centers are driving that, as well as just a growing population base. And when population bases move, the power needs of a region might move. And you shared that there's a considerable market opportunity to upgrade and support that power grid, and that's what Tri-M is doing it. But can you give us a little bit more understanding of the marketplace locally and what the business opportunity might be for a company like Tri-M Group?
Yeah, so ultimately, as technology advances like it has been, well, the need for a stable, functional grid, a power grid, is important, right? And as years go on, the demand gets higher and higher. Customer needs are required. Just think about it. As a parent, you're sitting at home, the lights go out. What's the first thing the kids are looking for? Their phones don't work because the Wi-Fi is down, right? So a stable grid is what they're after. They're looking for reliable service to the house. But with that helps us as a company, Tri-M. It allows us to assist our customers in upgrading power infrastructure, whether that be substation rebuilds, transmission projects, or distribution projects themselves. All of it is something that we're doing over the next few years.
Let's go back to you for a minute. You were very deliberate on your career in high voltage. You plotted the course you wanted to pursue and worked your way through it and up. Explain how you decided upon your career path and how it has unfolded for you.
So, graduated high school, had no idea what I was going to do, but I was a good football player. So I was able to go to college and play football. But in that time, in that era, it was, you got to go to college, right? It wasn't necessarily the you got to do a trade, right? Those tables have kind of twisted from where they were. So in 2001, when I came out of college, my brother was working as a contractor for the utility. And I asked him, hey, are you guys hiring? And the rest is history. So I jumped on with a contractor for a utility company out of Maryland and worked my way into the line apprenticeship and then worked my way up through different avenues to get to where I am today. In 2012, I took a management role and built my management experience based off of the needs of the industry, right? So I was a frontline leader, oversaw the field workers, the guys that I worked with before. Now I'm overseeing them. Went out to Chicago for a few years, took a mid-management level position to get that experience, only to return back to that company and work as a high-level manager. And then went on to construction management, was the other part of the business that I was missing, and then ultimately led me into my role today where I came up through Tri-M over the last 4.5 years.
Yeah, that's a pretty deliberate attempt to cover all the bases, and I mean that in a very respectful and with admiration for how you've done it. Was that what you decided you wanted to do right out of the box, or was as you were working through your career, you looked at the next step and took it, or was it like, here's what I want to be in 4 or 5 steps, so these are the steps I need to take in between?
I had a great leader one time tell me that if you want us to help yourself, the only person that's going to do that is you. So if you know what your next step looks like, you need to make that happen for you. And the only way to get there is to be great at what you're doing, right? So it's not necessarily trying to achieve that next level. It's being great at what you're currently doing will open the door for that next level. And I basically took that and I ran with it, and I jumped all over everything I could to make myself successful to get to ultimately the overarching goal. As a director, currently working my way up into some sort of VP role down the road.
Yeah, I love that. Just the simplicity of that advice. Be excellent at what you're at. I love it. Thank you for sharing that with us. Tri-M Group is an employee-owned business. Let's talk about that for a minute. What does that mean that Tri-M Group is employee-owned? And I suppose more importantly, what does it mean for the folks that work there?
So in the beginning, I explained that Tri-M was based off of relationships with the customers and the employees. This is a way for our past leadership, in order to turn the business over to the employees, to keep that legacy moving. And that legacy is what built us to where we are today. This is why we're 61 years in the business, because Big Brother's always out there knocking on the door looking to buy the next best thing. But is that what's best for the employees? It's not. And our leadership saw that, and they wanted to deter that away, and becoming employee owned and giving it over to the employees was that best course of action.
The Tri-M Group is a well-known local business, yet not everyone might be familiar with its work. For example, many of our listeners know that the Tri-M Group built out the electrics of the still newish Kennett Library. What other local projects can you tell us about?
Ultimately, we've done a lot in our backyard. We talk about the library. That was one of our most recent, biggest projects that we completed. We also help volunteer organizations as far as the YMCA. We attend the parades throughout Kennett Square. We help set up for the parades. We volunteer our time to do those, to hang the banners across the road in particular. Stuff that we just Tri-M volunteers the manpower and the equipment at no cost to them. It's just our way of giving back. But we've been in the market down in Kennett for years, doing all kinds of projects as well.
Driving down State Street in Kennett, as I've done many times, Pegasus has an office in Kennett. I always wondered who hung those banners for all the events that happen in Kennett regularly. And there's this big banner that seems to be across State Street for every single event. And now I know how it gets there. You just answered my question that I didn't even know I had. Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jim, earlier in the conversation, you shared that Tri-M has 4 different locations: Kennett Square, Quakertown, and Lock Haven, Pennsylvania, and then down in Middletown, Delaware. Tell us about those 4 locations. What's the thought process? Are those focused on different sectors? Is it just because there's enough business in the area to have a local team? Why the different locations?
Yeah, so to put it in perspective for the high voltage team particularly, we have a location out of Kennett Square and Lock Haven. That's basically 2 parts of Pennsylvania. Whereas those two, if you took a line and drew it right through the middle of Pennsylvania, essentially we encompass all of it, right? So out of the Lock Haven district, those guys are covering all that northern territory. The Kennett Square is covering the southern territory, down into Delaware, down into Maryland, and across. And then we have individuals that travel outside of there to go to Tennessee and those kinds of areas as well.
And you've been growing the high voltage department at Tri-M Group across those different divisions at an impressive pace. Tell us about that growth, and would you share your strategy behind that growth?
So I've been here at Tri-M for a little over 4 years, about 4.5 years. I started in 2021. Since 2021, I've doubled the employee base. And over the next 5 years, I intend to double that again. The reason for that is building relationships with customers that we currently have, and then meeting new customers, building those relationships, developing those, taking our current customer base and utilizing their positive feedback to give that to the our other potential customers. And that's kind of how our growth spiraled into a virtuous cycle ultimately. And it's been successful for us ever since. We built, for as far as our storm division, our storm team, we have multiple brokers that we work with. We have direct contracts across the country. And we attended 42 storm events last year in particular. And that was our biggest year that we had in Tri-M's history from a storm response.
Can I ask a question about that storm response? I'm guessing that storm response of 42 is in about what? 2 or 3 concentrated months at different times of the year. So it's not evenly spread out like 3 a month or 3 or 4 a month.
Yeah, exactly right. It could be it goes in waves, right? So you look at the cold season, right? So when we have the cold season, you get the freezing, you get the ice, and those kinds of things, right? Ice, heavy snow brings the trees down, brings the power lines down, and then we take a little bit of break around the split between winter and spring. Late spring, we see an uptick in wind events, right? So you have a lot of wind events causing the trees to come down, power outages as well. Then we get into what we call the thunder lightning season. That's your July, August timeframe, and then we get right into hurricane season, and then it starts all over again with winter. But to answer that question, you're looking at probably 7 months out of the year. Those months is where we see our majority of our events. So you could say 42 events, 6 events over those 7 months each month.
One area we like to explore with our guests here on the Start Local podcast is workforce development. I know this is a topic that's of particular interest to Eric. He spends a lot of time supporting our local community around that. Jim, but tell us about how is Tri-M Group educating its workforce for the future?
Well, ultimately, our apprentices are the future of the company, right? So in order to develop and maintain a sustainable workforce, we have to have a great apprenticeship program, which is what we do. We have a 4-year accredited program that our apprenticeships will go through. And at the end of their apprenticeship, they receive a certificate from not only the company, but the state to show that they completed the accredited program. And ultimately, that's your next journeyman wireman. That's your data guy. That's your lineman. That's line person, excuse me. That's your next employee. That's your future. Because ultimately, in a state where workforce is thin, the best way to get the best resources is create them yourselves, and that's through our apprenticeship program.
I heard your correction there. You said lineman, which I think is the traditional word, and then you said line person. Do you have women that are interested in that career as being a line person now?
Yes, we do. We actually we had one that was starting with us here last year, and at the last minute changed direction. But I particularly at one point in my career had a female line person working under my direction, and it's no different than standing side by side by any other person. So they do a fantastic job.
That's an excellent little subtlety. That's good to know.
Yep.
Where can folks learn more about that program, and who is it geared towards? Is it towards high school graduates, college graduates, trade show graduates? What's kind of the environment of folks where you're looking, and if they're interested, where can they learn more about this apprenticeship?
We spend a lot of times going to trade schools, to high schools, getting the word out there of what we provide in our local regions. We go to the trade schools up in Williamsport, down in Lancaster, multiple locations all over, high schools, just to get the word out that this opportunity is here. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go to college to be there, because we're going to pay you during your apprenticeship. So you're not paying for the apprenticeship. You're not going to school for 4 years and not making any money. You're going to get paid for the duration of your apprenticeship. And that's very appealing to most.
You mentioned earlier in your role as director of high voltage, you do a lot of travel for work. So when you're not on the road or in the office, what does unwinding look like for you? Or maybe when you're on the road, what does unwinding look like for you? That's just a valve of a question, I suppose.
Ultimately, I don't even know if there's a thing called unwinding. What is that? I can tell you this: when I'm not busy traveling and I'm home and it's time to unwind, I spend it with my family. I've been married for 23 years, been with my wife for 25. She's been with me through all of this growth. She's moved multiple times. She's been fantastic. I call her a lineman's wife. That's what we call it in the industry. It's the individual that holds down the fort when the lineman is away. And that's what she did, and gave us 3 wonderful children. I have a 23-year-old son who's currently in the military deployed and just signed up for 6 more years. And then I have a 21-year-old daughter who does weddings. She's a wedding planner, does event coordinating, those kinds of things. And then I have a son that's in high school. He's a senior this year, and he intends on joining Tri-M as an apprentice next summer when he graduates.
Are you going to ride to work together, or is he going to pack your lunch, or are you going to make his? I'm kind of curious now.
I'll tell you this much: he's on his own.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. We've talked earlier in this conversation about how Tri-M has been a really community-focused partner for a lot of local nonprofits and communities, and in fact, that Tri-M was the previous winner of the Southern Chester County Chamber of Commerce Community Impact Award. And in fact, they were the inaugural winner of that annual award. And we are members of the Chamber, and we partner and collaborate with the Chamber to support businesses and nonprofits across the county. So tell us a little bit about what Tri-M does to support its local community beyond using its trucks and its people to hang things in high places. How does that commitment to community play out?
In a number of ways, right? So back in 1998, when we built the YMCA here in Kennett Square, Tom Musser, who was one of our founders, led 2 capital campaigns to raise funds for the building of that building. And in turn, the renovations in 2012 that they did to expand that as well. He saw that to fruition. Actually, if you go into the YMCA there, you'll see that he has a plaque on one of the rooms. It's actually the Tom Musser room. So he actually has a plaque there. I saw that when I was there one day. I was going there to do a workout at the end of my day here when I was staying over. But beyond that, we're very involved in the Chamber of Commerce as well. We have multiple leaders that sit on the board, in particularly Ron Bogus, Chris Cessna, Jim Horn. We're involved with them. Like I said, the YMCA, Kentucky Unionville Little League team, and then also to that as well, the Kennett area community service, which encompasses the food cupboard, and social services and community housing. Camp Dreamcatcher is another one, which supports therapeutic and educational camp sessions for infected or affected children with HIV or AIDS.
Yeah, we had Patty Hilkirk from Camp Dreamcatcher on the show just a few episodes ago. So, folks, I absolutely invite you to go over to our website and check that out at startlocal.co. And we'll be sure to link to that episode in the show notes for this episode as well. Thanks for flagging them up, Jim.
Yep.
We know, Jim, that you've lived in several different places. You travel a lot of places. Tri-M has offices in multiple cities. Tell us about a specific local business or nonprofit, maybe in the Chester County area, that more people should know about.
Well, as I did mention, the YMCA of Brandywine, we're very involved in that. We utilize them for, we have all of our employees get a discount for them for their fitness center to work out, do classes and those kinds of things as well. As I mentioned, the Kennett Unionville Little League team, and then also that the Kennett area community service, which encompasses the food cupboard that I spoke about, and then Camp Dreamcatcher as well.
Thanks, and we'll be sure to link to all of those organizations over on our website at startlocal.co. Jim, when we were talking before we hit the record button, I joked that I expect Tri-M is always hiring. It's big enough to be in that kind of position, and with the kind of growth you're talking about, it sounds very much like the high voltage division is definitely hiring. But if folks are interested in seeing what positions are available with the company, whether it's out of Lock Haven or out of Kennett or out of Middletown or, I'm drawing a blank on the last one. What's the last location? What am I missing? Quakertown, thank you. Where can folks go and learn about those positions?
Well, they can go to www.tri-mgroup.com and click on the careers link. That'll take them right to all the positions that we're hiring. Tri-M currently has 528 employees. Over 300 of them are all field workers. So we are always looking for that expansion, our growth in all of our divisions. You'll see once you go on that careers link, you'll see that there is a number of positions that we're hiring for, and the opportunities are endless.
I think it certainly says something that your son is coming in as an apprentice at Tri-M. That means you're eating your own dog food, as we like to say in tech. So it definitely sounds like a good opportunity out there. Let me ask you this. It's another tough question. How can the community support the Tri-M group?
So I would tell you this. If you're out there and you're in conversations with anybody that's in general, there's no job too big, too small for us. Drop our name. We'll come out and take a look. We'll help out. If there's things that we need from a nonprofit perspective that you need support on, give us a shout. We're willing to help, lend a hand wherever we can. It's good to give back to a community that gives to us.
Jim O'Farrell, Director of High Voltage Operations with the Tri-M Group. Where can listeners connect with you to learn more about you and the Tri-M Group?
Well, for more about me, I have a LinkedIn page, James O'Farrell. You can find me on LinkedIn under the Tri-M Group. You can also check the Tri-M Group out we're on Facebook. We have a LinkedIn page as well, and other social media platforms as well. You can kind of catch us on, and then just check us out. I mean, we got some cool stuff in there. Like we did the Little League World Series. We did a float for that. We put our one of our bucket trucks in there and handed out some candy and stuff like that. And I'll tell you what, that was awesome. That was the first time we've ever done that, and we were selected for that. So that goes through a state and government approval in order to get that. So our objective next year is to hopefully pull our Pennsylvania team through the parade.
Well, I have to know. You get to have float in the Little League World Series. Were there like internal fights at Tri-M about who got to be on the float? And like, I'm senior to you, but I'm better looking than you are, and I live closer. And
yeah, actually, it's actually, believe it or not, they want a minimum of 8 people, so anybody can do it, right? So we had a good group this first year, and it being our first year, we expect next year to be even bigger than that. It was a great turnout, and just to support a great event. I mean, it goes on every year. I've watched it. I used to coach young children that played football for me, that participated in the Pennsylvania team back in 2016, which was kind of cool to see those guys on TV. But it was really neat.
Yeah. I love the Little League. I'm not a baseball fan, but I've been through Williamsport. You see the stadium. I just love the concept. It's fantastic.
It's definitely awesome.
Liam, do you want to say thank you for coming on, and then we'll wrap it up?
Yeah, I guess I probably should. I told you my brain's everywhere except on focus today. Jim, thanks so much for your time today. I really appreciate having you on and having you talk through all the great things that the Tri-M Group is doing. It's been a real pleasure.
I'm glad to be here, guys. I really appreciate the time and giving us the opportunity to express Tri-M as a group and look forward to the next one.
We appreciate everything you're doing, that's for sure. Thank you also to my co-host, Liam Dempsey. I am Eric Goodmanson. The Start Local podcast is published every 2 weeks. We invite you to subscribe to Start Local using your favorite podcast app or ask your smart speaker to play the Start Local podcast. You can visit the Start Local website at startlocal.co for show notes, including links mentioned on this show and summaries of past episodes. We hope you join us for the next episode. Thank you for listening.